From the presidency of Donald Trump to the discovery of the Higgs boson and even the storming of the Capitol in Washington, D.C., all of these extraordinary events really took place. And although you could not have actually guessed that such radical things could happen, The Simpsons predicted all these events. Since the show about everyone's favorite yellow family is actually just for entertainment, it's quite incredible how The Simpsons have called certain events again and again and again. In this video, we're going to introduce you to some of the most blatant and spectacular predictions from The Simpsons that aligned perfectly with reality. So for all this and more, stay tuned right here at Wonderlane. Let's get it started with number 8, which actually sort of references the coronavirus, which has had the entire world on its toes for over a year now. In the episode Marge is Arrested, which was first aired in 1993 as a part of the 4th season, Springfield caught the dreaded Osaka flu, which originated, like the coronavirus, in Asia, and spread throughout the entire world via cough and droplet infection. Similar to the current pandemic, the virus in The Simpsons was highly contagious and spread rapidly throughout the population. Also, in that same episode, there is some notable social and political unrest due to the city's approach to handling the pandemic. I'm sure that sounds very familiar to you, as it's what's happening right now with all the protests and turmoil in our country and in our world today. Last but not least, a similar event took place in the episode that has caused a lot of problems in the United States. The mayor of Springfield tells his citizens to stay home during the pandemic, but you later find out that he is in the Caribbean on vacation while giving that order. This is eerily similar to the statements made by many of our own politicians, especially the speech made by the mayor of Austin, Texas, Steve Adler, who during the pandemic begged people not to leave their houses and not to travel, and even used his political powers to go above the federally mandated travel restrictions immediately after his speech, yet flew to Mexico on vacation with his family. Now to number 7, The Simpsons predict the future in the series, but also in the 2007 Simpsons movie. In the film, Homer accidentally pollutes a lake in Springfield, causing the entire town to be cut off from the outside world and wiped off the face of the planet. Conveniently, Homer and his family manage to escape, but they are essentially outlaws. In one scene, Lisa has to make sure her voice can't be heard on a train as she talks about her future escape plan. She's worried that the NSA could be listening to her. This is immediately followed by a scene in which the NSA is listening to all the phone calls made in the United States. This confirms Lisa's fear that they're always watching. What looks like a harmless jab at some pervy computer nerds just looking to eavesdrop on women's conversations in the film turned out to be a reality a few years later. Specifically, in 2013, a former NSA employee, Edward Snowden, held a press conference completely exposing the NSA. He dropped the bomb that they had been tapping everyone's phone calls and abusing their power to collect information and data from all over the world. Snowden had to live in exile out of fear that the government was going to kill him for pouring out their dirty laundry. Through this infamous leak, we see that the disturbing vision in the Simpsons movie was actually not very far off. On to number 6, where we come across a prediction that's actually kind of scary. There's a Simpsons prophecy that revolves around one of the most important pieces of technology that our society has. In the episode Lisa on the Ice, circa 1994, Radius, Kearney, and Dolph are making fun of their classmate Martin, and they make a video with a high-tech smartphone. In the video, they convey their desire to beat him up. The two call the device a Newton, and if you look closer, it kind of looks like an iPhone. Not only does the phone have a massive screen, it also has a logo on the bottom that looks eerily similar to Apple's logo. It's an apple with a bite taken out of it. And if that wasn't enough to weird you out, Kearney says to the phone, "Beat up Martin," and it changes the words to "Eat up Martha." I don't know about you, but that sounds like the kind of mix-up that Siri would be responsible for. Another world-famous Apple product sees a premature debut here. In one of the scenes, you see a person wearing a form of smartwatch which has a display and voice control functions. 20 years later, Apple just so happens to release a watch with the exact same functions. Now on to number 5, where we have one of the most unexpected predictions ever made by The Simpsons. In the 2008 Halloween episode, Homer's having a hard time deciding between Barack Obama and John McCain for president. At the voting machine, he attempts to vote for Obama, but the computer only allows him to vote for the Republican candidate. Homer ends up getting so mad that he claims that the election's rigged. While nothing seemed to happen like that in the election, 4 years later when Obama was re-elected, this prediction was kind of realized. Voters at polls in Pennsylvania were trying to vote for Obama, and just like in the episode, the voting machine only allowed them to vote for the Republican competitor Mitt Romney. In the end, it turned out that the touchscreens had a glitch, and the election wasn't actually being rigged, but once again, The Simpsons are on something. Let's move on to number 4, where The Simpsons somehow predicted their own future. In the 1998 episode, Do You Know Any Famous Stars?, Homer becomes the private assistant of Hollywood stars Kim Basinger and Alec Baldwin. Homer helps the two live in isolation in a house in the woods. The end of the episode takes place back in Hollywood, and for a brief moment we catch a glimpse of a poster that predicts something that wouldn't happen for 18 years. An ad for the famous film studio 20th Century Fox, the production company of The Simpsons. Looking closer at the ad, you can see under the logo the words, "A division of Walt Disney." Almost 20 years later, we're speechless. In 2017, one of the world's biggest corporate moves made in the entertainment industry happened when Walt Disney bought Fox for over $50 billion. Since then, Fox has belonged to Disney, and with that, they also own the rights to The Simpsons. The Simpsons have been poking fun at Disney for years, but it's probably safe to say that Disney won't be the butt of many more jokes. Next up, number 3. In the episode Who Invented Itchy and Scratchy?, an event is predicted that made national headlines this year. Bart and Lisa are sitting at home watching Krusty the Clown's show on TV. In the show, Krusty shows a clip that's supposed to be about some United States legislation. At the beginning of the clip, a little Schoolhouse Rock-esque cartoon law is sitting on the steps of the Capitol in DC, and it complains about not being included in the Constitution. After some amendments to the Constitution, however, the law is allowed to enter the Capitol, which is considered to be the center of American democracy. And it brings some friends, who then storm up the stairs in a rage carrying weapons. Obviously, similar events occurred at the Capitol this year. You could say that The Simpsons called the Capitol riots. As we all know, numerous people stormed the Capitol, and like in the episode, many were armed. They even got into fights with the police as they got deeper inside the building. Not only was the storming of the Capitol shown in The Simpsons, but many of the outfits worn by the protesters, be it big hats or mustaches, looked kinda similar to some of the Simpsons characters. On to number 2, we've got a Simpsons scene that, in hindsight, has become all too real. In the 5th episode of season 11, Homer manages to become a kingpin in the agricultural industry. He sells an addictive product called Tomako. To make it, he uses nuclear waste as fertilizer to make a hybrid of tomato and a tobacco plant, which ends up selling very well. 4 years later, an avid Simpsons fan named Rob Barr came up with a similar idea of starting his own plantation combining the roots of the tobacco plant and tomatoes. As a result, he launched the product under the same name used in the episode, Tomako. This is a common scenario that often leads to major film studios filing copyright suits. The studios see someone stealing their ideas or property, and they try to sue them for everything they've got. But in this case, the makers of The Simpsons were so enthused by Barr's idea that they invited him and his family to the Simpsons studio and even ate his Tomako products. Fortunately, or unfortunately, depending on how you see it, they weren't actually addictive as they hardly contained any nicotine. Finally, number 1. Let's take a look at the 2010 episode Curling Queen, where Homer and Marge find their hidden love for curling. Their love for the winter sport runs so deep that they team up with Springfield Elementary School principal Seymour Spinner and his mom Agnes. Within a very short time, the 4-person team becomes so good that they qualify for the Winter Olympic Games, where they compete as underdogs. After battling their way through the competition, they find themselves playing Sweden in the final match for the gold medal. And their luck does not run out as they manage to upset Sweden for the gold in a highly contested match. Since the United States has historically been piss poor at curling, everyone just saw the episode for what it was, satire. The whole joke of the episode was that the United States had no chance of getting anywhere close to the final match at the Olympics. However, the Simpsons were right again, because this exact United States victory actually happened at the 2018 Games in Pyeongchang, a feat that should not have been possible. During the Winter Games in South Korea, the Americans competed as the obvious underdogs, but they managed to win the final match playing none other than the top favorites from Sweden. This victory secured the gold medal. The Simpsons not only predicted America's victory, but also the team that they would upset. Never doubt the red, white, and blue, or the yellow, I guess. And that's going to do it for our video on the 8 craziest Simpsons predictions, nay, prophecies, that actually came true. So did we miss anything? Is this going to keep happening? What will the Simpsons predict next? Be sure to let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe to Wonderlane. Go on, do it. I mean, this is quality content, man.